So let's imagine a list of tasks, and some of them are really important. We have an option to delete them on the right side. For stuff that's not that important, it's fine. But for this one, if we, hit this by accident, we will miss our really important task. So we need to have some sort of confirmation. Because the simplest way of approaching this is to add a confirm action. So here in our methods to remove the task, we can simply do, if it's not confirmed, do you want to remove the task? Then we will return. Let us see how this works. Now when we hit, we need to confirm the deletion. So that's cool, but it doesn't look that good, right? So let's implement a component that solves this. So basically gives the user the ability to confirm an action, but also looks good. So let's get started. So in order to do that, we are going to create a new QI component called confirm modal. And here we are obviously going to use our old model component that we created in the last episode. So here as a props, we'll accept a name. And this will be a string. And we can pass it here. Name equals name. Let's now add like 2 buttons to our footer. And we still haven't created a button component. So let me just copy this one and paste it here. So we'll have confirm and we'll have cancel. And on cancel, when somebody clicks it, we just want to hide the model. On the confirm, we'll need to invoke a method called confirm. And we can implement it later. Okay. So this is starting to look good. Our model doesn't have a required attribute title, which we actually need to pass. So we need to accept it in our confirm model as well, because we want this model to be universal and used anywhere in our app. So we'll accept the title. Let's make it required. So our title will be required and the type will be a string. So now let's pass the title here. And let's try and render this model here. So basically, let's think of the API that we want to have. We have a list here. And we could like render this model for every item in a list, but this is really wasteful. So what I would rather do is I would have like one confirm model for a given resource. So for example, we'll have one confirm model to just remove a task. And if we have 5 tasks, they will all utilize the same model. So this model will need a title. So for example, delete a task. It will require a name. So delete task model. And when this is invoked, rather than calling the invoke directly, open delete task model. And this would be our new method here. So again, ID to remove. So here we would have to show the model, delete task model. And here we would need to pass a payload basically, because we need to pass some data, for example, the ID. And we'll utilize this in a second. But for now, let's see if it even works. You click the button, you can see the model here. Our models weren't following the styling that we have. So let me just give it a BG page and now it looks much better. There's something weird going at the corners, but we can look at this later. It's not that important now. And here we would probably want to give it a text default. So the close button is viewable. But I think that when I know, it can stay here. Let me just change the cancel button so it looks more like cancel. BG primary, I'm sorry, BG page, border, text default. Let's see how this looks. That border here. Okay, looks good. We could, like, once when we are creating a button component, we'll be able to restyle those so it will look better. But for now, this is completely fine. So when we click the confirm button, what we want to do is we want to emit an event. So this emit confirmed, and we want to relay the payload that we got here. So what we actually need to do first, we need to define a data attribute that would store that payload. Payload, an object. And here we would send that payload over. But we are still not accepting this payload here in any way. So what we need to do is we need to use the before open method, and we need to use it to save payload, or maybe prepare modal or something like that. So here in our prepare model method, we would get an object, and this object would contain a couple of things. It could contain a title, description, and a payload. And this title was title, or this title. So basically you want to, we'll solve this in a second. This description be same. I'm sorry, we called it subtitle, I think. Maybe, one sec. Yeah, we called it subtitle. I'm not 100% happy with using the subtitle here. I know, no, that's fine. Let's go with subtitle here. Subtitle, and let's go this payload equals payload. Okay, now we need to solve this thing here. Basically, we shouldn't overwrite a prop in Vue.js. So instead of doing this, we can do something like, dynamic title and dynamic subtitle, and they would be empty. And here we would be overwriting those. We can even remove the payloads. We can add a computed to calculate actual title. So this would be, this dynamic title, and if there is none, it would fall back to this title. And when it comes to description, we can do the same thing, and we can also accept it as a prop. So we would have you know what? Maybe let's relabel them as default title and default description. This, I think, it's better. These can stay the same. And this would be just like title. So if there is a dynamic title, it would be a dynamic title. If there's no, it would be a default title. And let's do the same for description. So here, dynamic description, dynamic subtitle, I'm sorry. Subtitle. This title. Let me just change the case like that. Okay, so now what we can do is, we can pass the subtitle as well. subtitle default description. It should be default subtitle. This default subtitle. Okay, so I think this should work. Now we just need to change the method to method, so it's actually a proper name. And starting to look good, so let us reload the page and see what happens here exactly in our console. Missing regard prop default title. Yeah, because I don't think we changed the... Yeah, we didn't. Default title, default subtitle. Let's pass a default subtitle, so it's something like, are you sure you want to remove this task? Now let's reload the page. Now our console is clear, so that's great. We click X here. We are shown this model, which is great. Now we need to listen to what it actually emits. So in our list, we want to listen on confirmed event. And then we want to call delete task. So here we'll accept the payload, right? Because we are sending over the payload again. And the payload has ID, this thing here. So we should get this ID here in the response as well. And now we can remove this confirm. Let's see if this is even working. So let's remove the gym, confirm. Nothing happened. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so first of all, it's called remove. So delete task. Now let's reload the page, click it, let's confirm. Interesting. Okay. Let's see what payload are we getting here. Now our remove method. Let's click it here, let's confirm. We got an observer. That's interesting. So this is actually because what we need to do here is we need to create a copy of this. We need to create a copy of this property so we can destruct this payload in a new object, and this should remove the view observer. If we reload the page and now try to remove it again, we are getting an empty object. And this is because we have changed the way that the payload should be passed. Should use something like that. And now it should actually pass the proper data. And it doesn't. Okay, and this is just me being dumb. So here we will actually get an event. Actually, so like we can get like params from the event that we'll get. And params basically equals, params or an empty object so that it can be undefined. And then everything here will be just params dot title, subtitle, payload. And I think this should solve our problem. Okay, let's just console log everything and we'll get to the bottom of this. Okay, so the issue is here. This event here should be called before open and not before opened. So this solves the problem here. If we reload the page and we hit X, we can see that the payload has been passed. So now when we click confirm, this payload is passed over. We can actually see that the task was removed. So this is great. So, first thing is that once we confirm the model, we can just close it. So let's create this method, close. And this will just defer to, this, that model, that height, this, that name. But we can also use this close here. So this, nice little refactor. Let's remove this. And now, let's try to remove Jim. Let's click confirm. And now it's gone. So this is quite amazing. Now, what's also cool is that we should also be able to actually overwrite the default title. So for example, if we want to push a subtitle, so it says, are you sure you want to remove task dot title? And here we'll just do a simpler factor where this accepts a task. It would be task ID. And this would pass a task. And now let's reload the page and let's try again. Are you sure you want to remove Jim? That's great. We can now customize the title. Maybe let's put it in quotes or something, so more visible. And this model obviously has too little of contrast with the overlay, so it's hard, barely visible, but we can adjust it later. So now the last thing that we need to do, and this is a common practice, and I have seen this in AWS and other places, deleting a server on AWS, this is a big deal, right? So we want to make sure that the user is sure what they are doing and that they are removing the right server. So sometimes we need the user to confirm the deletion by retyping the name. And we can do this quite easily. So what we can do is we can actually create a new data. Let's call it expected. And this would be accepted here in our dynamic section because, this would obviously change from one task to the other. So this dot expected equals params dot expected. All right, so here in our actual body, what we can do is we can create a new div that would be shown only if, expected is filled. You can create a typography, type P, confirm action by retyping the expected. We could also make it a dynamic thing, so it's more universal, but we don't need to for this. If you want to, you can do this on your own. Let's import this component. Theme, because that's our UI, and let's see if this is working. So now we don't have any confirmation because we haven't passed the expected. So let's go here. Let's pass the expected. So it's task.title. Reopen the model. Confirm action by retyping that Jim. Doesn't read well. Maybe H4 would be a better. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't look too good if I have to be honest, but we can tackle that later. For now, we are mostly interested in the functionality. And so here we would create an input. This would bind to a value, which we have to define. Okay. Make it so max is max is expected dot length. And then the placeholder would be expected. Let's see how this looks. Okay, horrible. Let me just style this a little bit. Okay, it's not ideal, but let's just roll with this until we have an input component. So when we click enter, we want to submit that. So we'll just call the confirm method. And what's kind of is that now we can obviously confirm when this value isn't even inputted. So what we can do is we can first of all create a save, create a safety here. So if we have expected, so if it's like passed and it has a value, and this expected is different than this value, can like cast them both to lowercase, then we'll just return. So now if we try to remove the gym without retyping that, oh, the text, we need to change the color of the text as well. It's default. Okay, now if we type in gym, we can click confirm, and now it actually removes. You also see that it didn't clear our value when modal was opened for the second time, so we can handle it here. This that value equals an empty string. Let's reload the page. Let's try removing the gym again. Save, that's fine. Now it doesn't work. Only if it's the proper word, it works. And that's not how the max works, so we can just remove this for now. But yeah, the last thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that this is like disabled when condition is not matched. So let's extract this to like this can submit or like can confirm. And this would be a computed, can confirm, return this. Okay, so this button will be disabled if the user cannot confirm the selection. And also, we can do something like this. So we can apply a class basically when the user can confirm and the user, you know what, let's just do this. So we'll just do something like bg opacity 75, I think. Maybe just opacity 75. Oh, yeah. This should be negated. And if they can't confirm, it shouldn't return. And now, yeah, now it should work, I think. Okay, so now works. Cannot hit enter, we cannot click this button. Only if we type in trash and click confirm, it removes our item. The last thing that we can do is, first of all, let's see if this still works if we don't pass our expected. So let's comment that out. Let's reload the page. It seems to be working. So that's great. The last thing, and this is like small improvement, that when this model is opened and we have this input here, we should just focus this automatically. So the way this can be achieved is if we go to our model, we need to add a ref to our input. And ref is basically like, the old school of giving something an ID and then referencing it by the ID. So let's give it a ref of like, input or whatever. Then remove the template from here. Important. And can do something like on opened, focus the input. So we can use our focus input. And basically what we want to do here, we don't have an expected, we can just return. And if we do have expected, we can just do something like that. Let's see if this works. And yeah, it does. We can see that it autofocuses that input. So we can just type in spooky, click enter, and it's removed. And it works pretty nicely. So that's all we wanted to accomplish.